And that is UFC Cutman. Mr. Brad Tate is in the building. Brad, thank you for some of your time, man. UFC Denver right around the corner. How you feeling out here in the Mile High City?
Man, I cannot wait. I'm excited. Like I said, I love Denver's probably one of the funnest places that nobody knows about. I'm pretty sure I'll get there. It'll be raining. It'll snow. We might have some sleet, some hail. And then by 5 o'clock, it'll be sunny and the sun will be out and everybody will be having a great time. So I love it, man. It's going to be a blast. And then, that was the first ever UFC. So whenever we do come to Denver, like the fans show up and show out. So I know it's going to be a banging event.
It's going to be a banging event, man. We're going to be out there. And pretty much everybody in the city is going to be out there on Saturday night. So it should be a lot of fun. But hey, man, look, so obviously I just want to give the people a quick breakdown kind of on who you are, give them a little bit of information before we dive into some of the deeper stories and things that we want to talk to you about. So right off the gate, man, I want to say right about 16 years of experience in the game, over 1,000 shows that you've done. Can you just tell us really quick your background and how you became a UFC Cutman? Because as we've kind of seen, man, not very many people get to do your job.
Again, man, I don't want to tell the people oh, this was a career plan that I was in college and it showed up as Cutman. It all happened by chance, So I was a firefighter, paramedic in the Albuquerque Fire Department. And about that time, that was when Jackson's was the hot thing on the block. And I was flying back to Vegas and I met Greg Jackson and Keith Jardine. And then, of course, we just started talking, me and Greg. And Rashad Evans was getting ready to fight Forrest for the title. And Greg was explaining to me what he was doing and why he was going out so early. And I was like, hey, man, if you need me, being in Albuquerque and all, I can give him a couple of IVs. And I gave Rashad a couple of IVs, man. He won the title. And then Greg Jackson, always been on the cut of everything, started having me do more of his fighters, GSP, Carlos Condit, Cowboy, Bad Boy Garcia, Cub Swanson, Nate Marquardt. Because at that time, the grudge guys would come down to Albuquerque and train. So Nate, I would do the guys from Denver. I would do the guys from Canada, TriStar. And that was just how it happened. And then when everybody started noticing Rashad and GSP, then other fighters would reach out. And the next thing you know, man, I was here and I was just IVing people. USADA actually put me out of business, but I was cleaning up, man, because I was the only guy. I had cornered the market, bro. It was Tate or nobody. So, bro, I was short with 24 IVs and leave with a pocket full of money. It was great. And so then I reached out to Bert and was like, hey, man, I like what it is. And at that time, the UFC wasn't what it was now. And I was like, this is kind of cool. Can I do something? And he was like, what can you do? And I was like, well, I'm a paramedic. I could do that. And again, he was like, nah, you got to learn what to do. And I'm like, well, I save people's lives for a living. I could stop a cut. But at that time, I didn't know. And so Bert was like, hey, you got to learn how to wrap hands. And that was a journey. And then I had to go work a bunch of small shows. And that was a journey. And I did the Texas two-step where I was going to all those little shows, staying in them little bad, oh, God, them horrible hotels and showing up and wrapping guys' hands. And they didn't even know if I was good at it or not. They just was like, oh, this guy can do it. And then, like I said, Bert called me for Jake Shields' GSP. He said, you got a passport? So that was the first time, man. I went to Toronto, checked into the UFC hotel, got the little black and red shirt. Boy, you couldn't tell me anything back then. I was like, this is bro, it was living. And so I was just in the back doing the red and blue and just doing it, man. And here we are now, 16, 17 years later, look where we're at. So who knew? So it was by chance, man. I couldn't have wrote this story if I thought about it.
And you just mentioned, man, the hand wrapping thing. I want to ask you about hand wrapping because we see it right on your social media. We see it in the pre-fight when they're showing the guys getting ready back there with their headphones on. You're sitting there doing your thing, wrapping up those hands. So I do want to ask you, how important is it as a cut man to get that right? And how often do you think that, I don't want to say you get it wrong, but what are the odds that people get it wrong very often? Is that something where a lot of fighters like, hey man, can you rewrap my hands? Can you do it again? Do guys like it done different ways? Or is there one set way, you have to wrap it like that, and there's nothing else you can do about it?
First things, man, the hand wrap is an art. Now, I love being at the cage. Don't get me wrong. The cage is fun. That's where you get the fans and you get the cheering. But the wrapping hand, the art of wrapping hands and being in the back, that's where it's at. Because you are now part of that camp. You come in, you're vibing with those guys, you're catching up on the lingo because we see each other every weekend. So you're catching up, hey man, how'd this go? And I do know, like, some of my bigger guys, you're right. Like, I know this guy likes no thumb, this guy likes the wrist cut, this guy wants this. And so you ask how important a hand wrap is. Well, if a guy breaks his hands, he can't fight and make money. So it's very important. A guy can fight with blood and cuts, but he can't fight with a broken hand. So the hand wrapping part is definitely more important than actually going to the cage. And I love the hand wrapping part. Like, that to me is where you make your money as a cut man. Now, I will say this, when you see a guy punch and he draws his hand back and shake it, you do get a little bit of a pucker factor. But yeah, I mean, it is like, yeah, you never want a guy to be like, my hands hurt. But the style, like, there's different wraps. So, like, I might go heavy on the gauze and tape if it's a striker, looser if it's a wrestler on the wrist. Jiu-jitsu guys and wrestlers typically don't like their thumbs. Some do. But yeah, man, it's an art. I mean, it is an art and it takes time. And that is the part, honestly, where you have to get good at, because that's what makes you different. Like, that's what sets you aside, is those hand wraps. And I know if you talk to 10 different guys, they'll tell you 10 different things, but that's what makes Stitch great, was his hand wraps. You know what I'm saying? And you see that guy, man, and it's a great feeling when you wrap a guy's hand and he looks at the wrap and looks at you like, yo, I'm about to go out here and do work with this. Like, man, that's like boy, like I tell you, like, I feel like, on cloud nine, and it's awesome, man, when you wrap a guy's hand, he knocks out and he looks at you and he's like, bro, and he like gives you the pound, like, hey man, like, we got something. But same thing in defeat, man. Like, sometimes I wrap guys' hands and they've lost and they look at me like, hey man, I let you down. And I'm like, bro, like, are you good? So for me, being in the back is where I bond with the fighters. That's what brings me to you guys. And that's what I feel has made me successful, is because those guys mean so much to me. Their career means that much to me, man. You got to understand, like, DC was a guy that was notorious for constantly injuring his hand. And then DC took a shot on me, man. He was like, he didn't have to. I was still new in the game. I mean, I was like maybe 2 or 3 years in, and DC gave me my opportunity. And, thank God we had a lot of success, man, because he didn't break his hands, didn't injure his hands, but he brought that to my attention. He's like, bro, I fight, I break my hand, I'm down for 6 months to a year. So, I want to fight 2 or 3 times a year. So, yeah, I mean, the hand wrapping part is very, very essential in this game.
And you're talking about opportunity and everything that you got and how long it's taken, and guys like Stitch and some of the OGs of the game and all that good stuff. So I want to ask you, I watched an interview that you did, actually. You were talking about your first big opportunity phone call that you got. And I just want to get a little bit more from that. You were in Nebraska, I want to say, and you were out there and you poked a Brazilian fighter in the eye and whatever. So, like, how have you gone from that to this? And what was that moment like for you, kind of going out there, making that mistake and being like, you know what, man, like, mistakes happen, but has that kind of helped you through your career, looking back on that story?
You guys do your homework. I love it. So, bear with me because I got to ramble. So, for the longest time, man, like I said, when I first got in, they wouldn't even let me touch a guy's hand. So all I was allowed to do is walk around and put the red and blue on the tape. So the other guys would come in and wrap hands, and then I would come in and put the red and blue on, which would make it, seal it up, and the guy would get ready to go out and fight. And, I took pride in that, man, because that was all I was allowed to do. So after doing this for several years, I think they finally was like, all right, man, we're going to let you wrap a hand, So they let me wrap, typically the first guy of the night who was fighting, they would let me wrap his hand, right? And he didn't know any better, and he was super excited to be in the UFC, so he didn't care, man. They could have put anybody in front of this guy to wrap his hand. He would have been like, oh, man, it's awesome, right? So I do that for a while. And then finally they kind of go, hey, man, we're going to use this guy, not like let him go to the cage. And Burt Watson, I will never forget it, looks at me like, all right, baby, I'm putting you out front. Don't F this up. And I'm like, oh, well, what about, and now listen to me. I'm confident, man. I'm a fireman. I'm like, bro, mess this up. What? Like, bro, I've been waiting for this for years. Like, get out of here. Like, come on. And I've watched Stitch do this. Now, listen to me. Stitch is the man. When he's prepping and doing the grease, stitches like butter, right? So I'm like, oh man, I got them doing the thing. First fight out is a Brazilian that speaks no English. Nobody told me about this, but Bert used to always say, man, when the lights come on, your lights can't go out. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, all right, what could happen? So this guy comes to the cage, he's vibing to his music, speaks no English. He gets to me. This is my first time at the prep point. I don't know what to tell him. He's fought before, right? So he should know what to do, but he's never fought before. So we're just sitting here and he's doing this to his music. He listens to his music. I'm listening to his music. I'm kind of like, all right, man, hey, take your shirt off. Like, let me do this. He doesn't know what I'm saying. I don't know if he understands me, but hey, I know we're on the same beat, so we're here. And man, I'm like, hey, stop. Like, let me do this. Like, man. And all of a sudden, he zigged, I zagged, and wow, I'm in the eye. And I'm like, oh. And Bert's sitting right there looking at me. So I'm like, man, it's a wrap. Like, well, that didn't last long. So the guy gets, I mean, I'm mid-knuckle in there, bro. I mean, I went, whew, it was deep. So the guy looks at me. I just abandoned the grease part. I'm like, man, let's just get him in the cage. So he's in the cage. He's still rubbing his eye. His guy comes out. They start to fight. This dude throws a Hail Mary because he's blind, knocks the guy out. And Bert comes up and looks at me and goes, didn't take you long to F that up. Now did it, baby. I was like, so it humbled me. So what I will tell you, man, is in this sport, when you do think you know it all, you will get something where you will go, I remember like the TJ Dillashaw, Corey Sandhagen fight. Bro, I'd never seen a cut like this. I've seen him this way, I've seen him here, but I never saw a cut that was vertical. In the eye, I'd never seen that before. And, you know, the doctor's sitting here and he's like, man, yeah, like, you better do something because, like, if that gets deeper, it's going to go to a nerve. And this is, so now all of a sudden I'm like, oh, this is serious. You know, like, because before I was like, it's just a little cut. He's like, nah, bro, you got to get that because there's a nerve here. This could do this. This is called this. Like, if you don't get this, I'm going to stop it. But needless to say, we ended up stopping it. And TJ was prevailing and he won TJ won that match. But again, to answer your questions is like, you have to stay humble because something will happen in this sport that will definitely humble you. And you don't get down on yourself and you don't just pout. You just say, okay, you know, I won't do that again, or I learned from that, because that's also the same thing like the fire department that I like about the UFC or fights is even if I line the same fighters up and make them fight every Saturday, it'll be a different show every time. It will never be the same. You'll never see the same thing. You'll never see the same cut. I've seen fighters come to the cage with scar tissue and you're like, oh man, he's going to be busted open. And this never opens up. And then he has a cut over by his ear. And you're like, interesting. You know, I've been like, oh, this person is about to, I've had guys in the back while I'm wrapping their hands and guys like, man, I'm a wrestle. I'm like, bro, you don't want any extra padding? Nah, man, I'm a wrestle. I'm going to just take him down. Next thing you know, they're in a fight for their life, punching and swinging for the fence. I'm just like, so I'll look at a fighter now and be like, bro, like, I just want you to know, if I wrap your hands for wrestling and you end up striking and knocking this guy out, me and you going to fight in the back. Oh, Tate, you crazy. Then they come back there like, yo, bro, maybe I should just let you do what you want to do next time. I didn't know that was going to happen. So the fight game is very dynamic, man. You can plan for everything, but like Mike Tyson said, you all have a plan until you get hit in the mouth.
Amen to that, man. It's actually a really good segue onto the next question about that TJ Dillashaw, Corey Sandhagen fight, that vertical cut. You know, we all see in boxing, they just slop Vaseline in there. There's like no regulated amount. They put a pound of Vaseline on you. They don't care. But you use a roller. Some guys still use the regular Vaseline. I haven't seen the jar as much in the UFC. What's the deal? Is it regulated? Is there a certain amount you're allowed to use? Is it like regulated in between rounds? How does that work?
So in boxing, because no one's trying to grab and manipulate. So here's a fun fact. You talk about mistakes. When Mark Hunt was fighting Alistair Overeem, he kicked him. And when he did, he split his shin. So the genius I am, I go in there with my swabs and I stop the cut. Well, I'm so used to the face things that after you stop the cut, you slab it with grease. So me being as smart as I am, I slab Mark Hunt's leg with Vaseline I think it may have been the ref from New Jersey, the big guy. It escapes me his name.
Dan Marigliata?
Yes. He
There
goes,
we
hey,
go.
brother. He's like, you can't put grease down there. What if they try to go? He's like, it's not going to matter with these guys. But, in the future, what if they try to do a submission? And I was like, oh, man, I had no idea about that. So, again, I just learned. But the grease, I use the roller. And everybody's like, Vaseline owes me some money because now everybody wants to buy these things. So Vaseline, if you're listening to this, hey, I want my money for this. But Vaseline, Vaseline owes me some money, bro. Nobody even thinks about Vaseline until all of a sudden they're like,
we're gonna tag him in this.
We'll tag him for sure.
Make sure Vaseline knows that, hey, bro, like everybody now wants to talk about Vaseline. Kids want to get greased up. But so I use the roller because it's clean. So if I take and use the jar and dip the Vaseline and get grease everywhere, i.e., I got grease on Bruce Buffer's suit because I had a big blob of grease on my hand.
Story. Yeah.
So I use the Vaseline stick because it's easier and then my hands don't get covered in grease. Now, in between rounds, I will use some and I'll apply it to the cuts, but I just use it. In boxing, they have grease on the guy's arms and everything so they can slide, so they can get out of things, and they can maneuver because you want to strike. But in MMA, you don't want as much Vaseline because guys are using submissions and stuff like that. And I don't know if you guys remember, Anderson Silva used to glob his face, and Anderson would take and wipe it off and rub it on the shoulders. And then you would see the judges come in with towels and wipe it off. So that's kind of why I use the roller, because you just want enough grease so it makes a smooth surface so the gloves slide off of the punches and not stick and give them rug burns or stuff like that when they punch them.
So I gotta ask, man. I didn't think I was gonna ask this, but now I have to. I don't know if you ever wrapped Jorge Masvidal's hands or if you ever worked in his corner.
I have.
But I gotta know if that dude was greasing in the Burns fight.
No,
I gotta know.
First of all, man, Jorge honestly is one of the coolest guys in the sport. And I haven't ever met a guy. Now, I know they might guys might take showers or whatever, and they might put lotion on or whatever before the fight. But I don't, and I'm a good friend of Gilbert. I love Gilbert. Part of my success is because of him. But I don't think Masvidal would ever knowingly do something like that. I just don't feel like he's that kind of a person. I have wrapped his hands. He's funny because he's like, hey, he's definitely gonna chuck him. He's like, hey man, make sure you put some padding on this one, and if I remember, he always had wrist issues. So he was always like, hey man, this right here, but I'm gonna be throwing these things. But I don't think guys do that. I feel like these guys will sweat so hard that they're like grease pigs. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
I have never, in my time in the sports, have ever really seen a guy willingly cheat, as far as greasing or something. Now, I've seen guys maybe hold submissions too long or maybe throw a punch, but I've never really seen that kind of behavior in the cage or in the sport, in the UFC.
We did see the bite recently. I think that guy got chucked within a couple hours.
That was the first, again, like I said, bro, every day you watch these fights because you never know what's going to happen. I'm just like,
you have no idea.
And it was funny because I made a post about it, man. And I used the R word, which I had no idea was going to be offensive. So as many people liked it, so many people said, you can't say that. And I was like, it was a movie quote, man, because I'm a big movie person. But I was like, who knew? I'm wrapping this guy's hand, he all cool. And then he goes in the cage and I'm like, and then he comes in the back and I'm just like, bro, we are not friends. Bro, I didn't know you was going to do something like that. But he had a moment, man. And then but instantly when he did it, he's super apologetic. You know what I'm saying? And you kind of have to, he got caught up in the moment. Like I said, I don't think he's a bad person. I don't think he's willingly, who thinks like that? I don't even think you think nothing like that, but But then the guy that he bites goes and gets a tattoo. I'm like, yeah, this is. I always make the joke, man. Other people children, bro. You in there just scratching your head, okay, why not?
So, it's one way to get into the UFC. Tattoo a bite mark on your arm. I mean, that's something else. Last thing I was gonna say is, I got to know what the nastiest injury you've seen is. There's been some nasty ones, like just to kind of give the fans an idea of like, what the cutman's role is in like determining whether a fighter can continue, but also give us like what the nastiest thing you've ever seen in there was.
So John Jones' toe was disgusting. Chris Weidman's broken leg was just the leg itself was nasty because you heard it, but then listening to this grown man scream in pain was like, I'll never forget that. Even with Anderson, like I'll never forget. And that's the thing, like, man, for my days of being a paramedic, I could always deal with like death. And I'm not like making it small, but like it was the people that were alive that were screaming. That scream where you were just like, oh my God, like this is really bad, So that was bad. The cut at 303, Myra, that was bad, man. I really, really wanted to work that cut. But like I said, the ref didn't make the wrong call. It's just me being my ego driven. I would have loved to have the opportunity to like stop that. So that way when people go, what's the worst cut you ever seen? Myra. You know what I'm saying? So, because it sucks when people ask me, and I'm like, well, it was just one time, this guy. So, but again, that John Jones toe was that was squeamish for me. And then they kept zooming in on it. I was just like, oh, and then John's like, man, I gotta sit down. I'm getting lightheaded, But yeah, I didn't work Robo's cut. That was bad. That was really bad. But you see them all. But TJ's cut was different. It was crazy the way it was bleeding. That was a challenge for me, But yeah, that's the cuts that I would say stuck out in the injuries that I've seen. Even when I see the guys kicking their shin split, like that's still kind of like, ooh, because it really is like that. And then they're still out there kicking, and then they're kicking the guy, and then blood. I'm like, oh yeah, that's. But to answer your question, I don't have a say in stopping the fight, but I will in Vegas, or if I'm with a doctor and I'm confident, I'll tell a doctor like, hey man, give me the opportunity. I think I can stop it. I think I can stop the cut. So that's kind of what you want to do as a cut man. You want to work with the doctors and the physicians and stuff. And then the refs have their job, the doctors have their job. But I know the medical staff in Vegas is really good at letting us work and getting in there and getting our hands on stuff. As a cut man, my job is to prepare the fighter to go and do combat. So whether getting their nails, their toenails, making sure their hair's out of the way, making sure their hands wrapped. Then the equipment team comes in and makes sure they have their cup and everything that's going to be on camera is okay. And then when they get to the cage, we prep them. We do a slight check. The referees do a slight check. And then in between the rounds, we'll go in and apply Vaseline more if we need it. If the gauze has come undone, we might cut it off or I like the cut man role to the chalks on the baseball field or the chalks on the football field or the lines on a basketball court. Nobody cares about them, but you can't play the game without them.
Mm-hmm. Hey, man. Hey, I kind of want to roll through on that question too, and just take it one step further. So when it comes to eye pokes, one kind of double-sided question here. First of all, do you have any say in that, or is that more the doctor? And two, what's kind of the rule just between the refs and the doctors and you of if it's a disqualification for the eye poke being purposeful, or if it's the guy with the eye saying, hey, I'm out? Because we see so many times that people are like, hey, round of applause for that guy for not, ending the fight and kind of taking the easy way out. I don't want to put it like that, but you know what I'm saying? So like, what's the fine line there with eye poking? How's that all work?
So the eye poke, when it happens, the ref is going to stop. I don't really know the time frame or how long you have, maybe 5 minutes. I'm not sure. I know about the groin strike is 5 minutes, but I don't know about the eye poke. But my job essentially is I'm never going to talk to a doctor to tell him to stop the fight. What I will do now, and this is how MMA has evolved, is it's forever growing, forever changing the rules. So now when a guy gets poked in the eye, we're allowed to take one of the cold towels that we have and then give that to the fighter, and he can apply it to his eye, maybe clear stuff out of it if he needs be, and hold that cool compress on there, and hopefully that makes him feel better. Ultimately, it's going to be up to the doctor and the ref on if he's going to take points or if the ref is going to stop the fight. And clearly, if a guy says he can't see or if he has double vision, then the doctor's going to stop the fight, because at all, fighter safety is the most important on what we're dealing with here. So you get these guys, and the fighters are some of the toughest SOBs I've ever met, but I feel like they're too tough for their own good, so you'll see the guy get mad, like, I was in a submission and I wasn't going to tap, I would have tapped, Gilbert grabs me around the neck and I'm tapping. But, these guys want to be choked unconscious. They want their arms to break. And it's like, if they break your arm, they tear ligaments, that just keeps you out of the fight game that much longer. The old saying, live to fight another day. But these guys are so tough, and they really are, the Spartans, man. They are definitely like on their shield or back with it. But the sport's evolving, so they're doing a lot of cool things now. So the cold towel to help with the eye pokes is one thing that we're doing now, which I think is pretty good, and that's how we do it.
I got a couple rapid ones that I posted a couple of days ago. I was like, hey, shoot me your best question to ask Tate on this interview. So here's a couple of the ones that I got.
I love it. Go ahead, brother. I love it. Shoot.
All right. One was about Jorge. We already got that out of the way. The second one was Marina Rodriguez, the pre-fight thing that's going on. I love Marina. I bet on Marina all the time. I love Marina. I think she's a great fighter. But what was going on in your mind when you saw her coach slapping her face? Because that might be the most iconic Cutman picture ever.
So again, bro, we're in Brazil and I'm vibing. Brazil is nuts, man. Like, the fans are amazing. Like, bro, I love the fans. They're so passionate, and they've honestly welcomed me, brother. Like, the Brazilians love me. So we're over there and we're having a great time, man. And she comes out, and I'm just there in the thing, like, because I've done it 100 times, and I'll be honest, I'm kind of complacent. I won't lie. So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, I'm just like, and the Brazilian crowd is loud, but I start hearing this, like, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm looking at this guy, and the coach is the best coach ever, man. I'm like, bro, he's really hitting her. So I'm like looking at Mike, like, bro, he's really hitting her. Like, so nobody else is like paying attention to this guy, literally. And he's a man, bro. He's over 200 pounds. I'm like, and she's so little and the sweetest thing ever. And I'm like, bro, he is really lighting her up right now. Like, so that's where the face came in. Like, so we're just all gonna witness this assault, and just now I'm gonna put grease on her face and just let her go in there and fight some more. Like,
oh
bro,
man,
and then she like just took it like like a champ, and I'm just like, this is crazy. So that was one moments where I was just like, bro, this is. And then like everybody was like, your face, and I'm like, my face. I'm like, that's the other thing too, man, about me. Like, the people in the truck are always laughing at me because they're like, bro, your face, I could never gamble, bro. Because like if I get a good hand, I'm gonna be cheesing. Like, the one time a fighter came in there and spit, and I was like, ew, like, bro, like it's my reaction in there. Like, there's cameras everywhere, and I'm that guy boy, I've been caught dancing, I've been caught talking trash to people. That's just me. So like, yeah, bro, when he was doing that, I was more shocked because the music's loud, the fans are loud. She's Brazilian, and you can hear her getting smacked. And I'm just like, so we're so desensitized to this that we're okay with this. Okay. So that's where that facial, and that's what it came from. I was just looking around to make sure I wasn't the only one looking at this, and nobody cared. They were, it's just part of the thing. So, but it's the same thing with Clay Guida. I'm like, bro,
he does that too.
I'm like, Clay Guida's gonna be amazing in power slap because he's been slapped so much. Like, bro, I'm just like, yo, and his brother gets so excited too, and the music going. I'm like, bro, I don't think you're supposed to hit this guy that hard.
He's a different breed.
Bro, can you imagine being in a fight and to get prepared, you got to get slapped to wake you up? I'm like, okay, well, I guess so.
When smelling salts aren't enough, man. I mean, those guys are nuts, but no, I love it. Like I said, I love Marina. Everyone knows the video, so I had to ask that one. And then the last one, I'm going to start out by saying Charles Oliveira is my favorite fighter of all time. But if you got to talk out,
yes,
if you got to talk about probably the coolest or the most iconic walkouts you've ever seen, I think Charles' walkout is very different than everybody else's, right? It's like almost religious, right? And and there are some other really iconic ones in the sport. What's the coolest one you've ever been a part of or that you ever witnessed?
So, bro, MVP's starting to come with because he loves to entertain the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
I love Charles Oliveira because I'm like, remember back in the day, Charles would come in with his glasses and then take his glasses off and go fight. I used to always be like, but he can't see. He needs his glasses to fight. I mean, he needs his glasses to walk out, but now he's going to, okay, well, let's see what happens. So that was funny. Izzy, when he came out with The Undertaker, that was, I love that one. Izzy, when he danced, Izzy does pretty good ones. What's my Brazilian guy that does all the flips?
Pereira? Michel Pereira?
Dude, he's another good one. I love him when he comes out. He does a good one. I'm trying to think, man. Just
Oliveira's got that. Caio Bajalio is doing that Oliveira thing now. He's got the Fighting Nerds or whatever the name of that gym is down there.
The fight. Yeah, I love those guys. Like, I love those guys. I wrap their hands. They always give me the glasses to take a picture with them. So, dude, the Brazilians, I love those guys. I'm starting to like Sean Strickland's walkout. You know, I don't care what you think about the guy. Trump's walkout is pretty cool too when he plays American Badass and he comes out and the fans go. That's a cool. Cowboy's got a great walkout. Man, there's been Anderson's walkout, bro. When the lights go down and he and that DMX, Chuck Liddell's walkout was crazy with DMX, bro. So there's been some iconic walkouts, bro. Like, that's the one thing I love. Is I love when a fighter like makes a song his staple. So when you hear that song, you're like, okay. So when you hear Cowboy, you instantly think about Cowboy. You know, when I hear Rashad's walkout was the one with Biggie, Diddy, and all those guys. Where it was like the sun don't shine forever. I love that. Rashad's walkout was crazy too. I love that one. And but yeah, like the new guys are doing pretty good with the walkouts. I love the walkouts. Connor's walkout when he first came in and they did the Foggy Dude and the smoke. Connor's walkout was pretty epic too. So I like Dustin too, man, because Dustin always gonna come out with some James Brown or something, some old school stuff. So Kevin Gastelum is another one. Before Kevin Gastelum started coming out with the mariachis, Kevin Gastelum used to always come out with some tight music. He was real good.
You've kind of been doing this pre-fight thing where you walk up and you wrap a fan's hands. Is that something where maybe the people that are in the building early might just get lucky and get to see that?
Dude, I'm going to tell you guys again, like, I'm very genuine. So I love interacting with the fans. So anybody that's listening to this, man, if you see me, talk to me. Shoot me a DM. I don't mind. If I can wrap your hands or if I can put grease on your face, I love it, man. I love the Fan Expo. Like, I can't tell you guys enough of how much fun it is to interact with you guys. You make the job so much fun. It's not even work to me. You know, I always say that, like, if you love what you do, you'll never work another day in your life. And that's true. And I'm very thankful for the fans because they've embraced me when they didn't have to. And so it's because of them that I am where I'm at, and I'm appreciative, man. So I just want to tell the fans, man, thank you guys again. Thank you to Brazil. Thank you to Canada. Thank you to all MMA fans, because thank you to you guys for giving me this platform to even talk to me for 30 minutes or whatever. I really want to tell you guys thank you. It's from the heart, and I appreciate it. Now, if you guys can get that Vaseline sponsor.
We're going to work on it, brother. I promise.
I appreciate you guys so much.
We're going to tag them until they respond.
I'll blind copy you on the email. Don't worry.
I appreciate you guys so much. But hey, listen, man, if you guys got any other crazy questions, please don't. Like I said, the sport is evolving. The sport is getting better, man. When I first started, they would weigh guys in at 4:30. Now they're weighing them in that morning on Friday, so they get a night to recover. So science is helping. They're getting smart. They're getting these guys closer to their fighting weight, so these guys are not doing drastic weight cuts. And it's all to make the sport better. And so, like I said, man, if you guys have any questions from what I've seen from when I've got there to what it is now, I'm still free and I don't mind. I love talking about this stuff.
Well, I do want to throw it out there for all you guys that are watching, no matter where you guys are watching, if you're watching the radio show, if you're watching on YouTube, whatever it might be, please comment your guys' questions below. We can always run this back with Mr. Brad Tate and get all those questions that are very personal you guys have for him. So please drop your questions there. We'd love to do that. But before you get out of here, my man, final question for you. Any shout outs for any of the family, friends, fighters, anybody out there?
Man, if anything, my family, because I couldn't do this without my family. You know, everybody that had something to do with me. It's too many people to thank, man. Like I said, it takes a village. And so I have a very powerful village, mom, dad, friends, significant others, all those people, daughters and stuff like that. So I'm very appreciative of everybody that's helped me along this journey. There's too many to say thank you. Thank you to the fighters for using me. Thank you for trusting me with your hands. Thank you for trusting me in your corner. Thank you to the camp. So just thank everybody, man. I'm just thankful all the way around.
There you go, guys. Give that man a follow at that_damn_Tate on Instagram. Make you guys comment and come out to the fights this weekend. UFC Denver going down July 13th, 2024 here in just a couple days at Ball Arena. We'll see you guys there. Mr. Tate, thank you for your time, brother. We'll
thank
talk
you guys.
to you soon.
Love you. Have a good one.